mental health and relationships between men and women. I like to have a woman's perspective. I'm only a man. I cannot speak for the needs and priorities of the women. And so, Bidnillah, I think she's going to be a real treat for those of you who haven't met her or heard her speak before. I think you're really going to like her, inshallah. She's real down to earth. And may Allah bless her, inshallah. She'll come and bring many beneficial things for us, inshallah. So, just beginning, this mic is a little, it seems like it. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to shout it as much as I can, inshallah, until we get let's all boo. Hits. Okay. So okay. All right. So we're here. We ended on the idea of the importance of after into investigating marriage and how Islamically this is from the Sunnah. Hello? Testing. Assalamu alaikum. It seems like it's. Decision to make, and you can't live with them again. We talk about the idea the last time I was here that the kuffar, they date each other for 6, 7, 8 years. They sleep with each other. They move into the same apartment. They do all of these things together. They get a dog together, and then they break up, and then they fight over who's going to get the dog when they decide one day suddenly there's somebody I met in a nightclub I like better or something or other. Or I was just lonely. And so it's better for you to investigate and ask as much as you can to people who have had the benefit of more experience to get to know the person and the family that they're coming from than you have. But you should also trust what it is that people have to say, right? If people are telling you one thing about this person, whether it's good or bad, I would encourage you, inshallah, to do your best to trust the information that has come to you. It's up to you whether or not you present that information to the people that you're talking to, or if you decide for yourself, I've looked into you, I don't want to share what was shared with me, but because of that, I'd rather not continue pursuing the process of getting to know you for marriage. Yes.
So if you've done your due diligence on the person, you research them, and you find that their family, like their parents, their siblings, or otherwise, their family has a bad reputation, but the person themselves otherwise seems like a good person. Would you advise to go through with that marriage, or would you say that there's something going on?
You have to do your diligence. I have that exact situation right now with the family, right? Where the family did the investigation for their daughter, and they found out that the brother's family, several of the A'imma from that community have said, I would never marry my daughter to that family. And of course, I said I was going to see how many times I can call the women desperate before I get beat up, right? But of course, the daughter already likes the guy. So in her mind, she's like, well, that's them. That's not him, right? Which there is to some degree a fair point. What you have to look at is how individuated is the person from whatever the negative trait with their family is. Does that make sense? And does the person recognize the problem within their family? Have they shown you a track record of their ability to resist engaging in that kind of activity, advising them? Is the person strong enough to advise their family? Because you don't want to marry someone who they're in the thrall of whatever the toxic thing is that's going on in their family. So, for instance, the example with the sister, I've spoken with her, and I said, "Look, do you know what you're getting into?" And she says, "Yes." His mother is everything everyone says about her. There's no denying that. I see it. He sees it. And so I asked her, "Well, when you have had conflicts with the mother in the process of getting to know him, how has he responded to his mother when she has crossed the bounds with you?" That'll tell you everything that you need to know, right? Oh, jazakallah khair. And so to some degree, she's satisfied with that. And he has been able to sufficiently impress upon her that he's willing to stand up to his family. He knows the boundaries. He's able to confront them in a way that she's satisfied with, and that is sufficient enough for his family to change whatever behavior they need to change. Now, that's not always necessarily the case. I know that, eventually we're going to get into cross-cultural marriages, right? And so I know that, so one of the Aimma that I know, he's Puerto Rican. And so they said he was at ICNA. He told me he was at ICNA, and the people from ICNA were looking for him because there was a Puerto Rican sister who wanted to marry a Pakistani brother, right? And so he said to the sister, understanding some of what we know of Pakistani culture, and so he asked the brother in front of the sister, "If you marry her and then your mother tells you to divorce her, are you going to do it without question?" He said, "Yes." Right? In front of the woman. And so he looked at the woman, right? And he said to her, "Are you satisfied with his answer? He's already told you what he's going to do." She said, "Yes, I want to marry him anyway." And he just said, "Okay, I'm not going to marry you. I don't want to be a part of marrying you two together because Allahu alam what you're getting into. But if that's what you choose, at least you know it. And if you can find someone else to marry you, you should do that." Right? And so you want to do your best to get to know what kind of person this person is. What they show you tells you who they are, and what they don't show you also tells you who they are. Right? Does that make sense? Pay attention, right? Okay. So we're going to try to move on again. I said I wanted to move as quickly as possible, inshallah. And so when we come here, one of the things that I want to begin with is the importance for the brothers, right? My brothers in Islam, I cannot advise you enough, right? So we talked about the idea that marriage is half your deen. We already clarified some misconceptions about this. Marriage is not actually half of your deen. Half of your Islamic life takes place during the course of your marriage, right? Half of everything that happens in your life occurs within the context of you being married, right? So with that being said, you must choose the most righteous, God-fearing woman you can find. The most righteous, God-fearing woman you can find. In this instance, you have to be thoughtful about the repercussions of your decision beyond a year, beyond 2 years, beyond 3 years, beyond 10 years. Who do you want to be living your religious life with? Who do you want to be helping you raise your children? Who do you want to create a Muslim family along with? You cannot, again, just be in the thrall of a woman who is cute, right? You cannot. I'm saying this because I want to be honest. I'm not saying this to be salacious. You cannot marry the sister because the wind was blowing very hard outside of the masjid when she was on her way to her car. Right? We all understand. And you say, "Oh, there's something about her. I feel drawn to her iman." You see the guys are quiet, like, he's letting all the secrets out. Again, I'm not trying to tell you nightmare stories. I really do have a lot of beautiful, successful marriage stories. But I also want to talk to you about the reality of the situation. And there's a very young man who I talked to for a very long time. We've been talking. And he's met this sister, and every time we talk, they have a new problem with each other. And they're fighting with each other over this, and they're fighting with each other over that. And the one thing that he never tells me about is their commitment to Allah. No matter how bad things get, and no matter how often I advise him, he does not create a barrier between him and her to allow their relationship with Allah to grow. He didn't choose the most righteous woman he could find. He didn't. And I asked him this. You told me this about her, this about her, this about her. She does not sound like the most righteous, God-fearing woman you could find. She sounds like someone who's doing for you enough. Right? She has to believe in Allah and she has to pray. And that's it. He's not looking for good character. He's not looking for obedience. He's not looking for he's not looking for taqwa in her heart. He's not looking for any of those things. Right? And part of that sometimes is a reflection of our own selves. We're not looking for righteous men and we're not looking for righteous women because we don't want to hold ourselves up to a higher standard. Is this true? We don't want to marry someone who's going to police us. Right? Can I tell you what you should do? You should marry someone who can hold you accountable with your Lord. Hunna libasul lakum. They're meant to protect you. Right? They're meant to beautify you. They're meant to adorn you. And what are these things, these adornments that you want? It's taqwa. Right? It's khushu' in your salah. It's increasing in the memorization of Quran, the regular recitation of Quran, all of these things. And so, brothers and sisters in Islam, you have to choose. And this becomes a theme over and over and over. Why? Because I'm telling you, because no one's doing it. I had a close friend. He passed away. Allah yarhamhu. He's older than me. He was old enough to be my father. And I like to tell his story because it's a real story. This brother, he came to me. He's African American like me. And he came to me and he said that he met a sister and maybe she was from Morocco or something like that. And alhamdulillah, she had an ijazah in this and she had memorized the Quran like that and all of these things. She sounded like this very knowledgeable sister. Very, very knowledgeable sister. And he was so excited and the prospect of marrying her and all of the excitement, the last thing he said, and he never smiled again talking about her. And as far as I know, he never married her. He said, but I don't know if I can have someone behind me in salah correcting my recitation. I'm seeing a lot of strong reactions. What are your reactions to this? It depends. Yeah. It depends if you're willing to accept the challenge. It's not, when you say ego, it is ego, but I don't mean ego in a bad way, right? It's more like an insecurity. He thinks it means something about him that it doesn't, right? Did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, did he stumble in his recitation sometimes? Right? And he actually reprimanded the Sahaba for not helping him. What prevented you? Right? Meaning you were here when I was praying, you heard me reciting, stumbling, confused in the recitation. Why didn't you correct me? The expectation is for all of us to help and support one another. And he's lost out on such a beautiful thing. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. We're overlooking how much we're actually supposed to be relying on each other through our marriage. And as far as I know, he never married the sister. He never did. And he lost out on a tremendous opportunity. How much more barakah could he have gotten from that marriage before he passed away? Right? So we must, brothers and sisters in Islam, You must marry the person who fears Allah the most. Obviously, you have to marry someone who has the same interests as you, who you find attractive, interesting, and funny. You must choose someone, obviously, that you want to wake up and you're excited to be with. But that person, before anything, should be the most righteous person you can find. And whether that person is more righteous than you, alhamdulillah, that's an added benefit because they can hold you more accountable, which would be great. You don't have a slave master driving you. You have someone who challenges you and stretches you to grow. Yes.
What if the religious distance is so large? So someone just starting to pray and then the girl is looking at you like shit.
You gotta be man enough and woman enough to have an honest conversation with each other about what that means. What does patience with each other mean? I know for myself, this was the situation. I was married before my current marriage. And that was the problem in my previous marriage, where I married someone who she was Muslim her whole life, right? And when we started to get to know each other, she said, I want to grow into this kind of Muslim and I want to be like this and I want to do like that and so on, right? And so she's saying everything that I'm saying, but we don't mean it in the same way and I didn't realize it, right? So literally the day after we got married, I'm taking her to the store to buy a black abaya, right? And that's not what she was talking about. And she was giving her 100%, but my 100% and her 100% were not, they don't look the same. 100% of my power punching in the gym is not 100% of her power punching in the gym, right? But I can't call her weak because her power is not like mine. And that was sincerely, I realized that was our mistake, right? And it took us a long time to figure out. We had other problems, right? Obviously, we're not married today. But that was one of the things that I really had to adjust to, right? Because I'm marrying someone thinking, oh, she means what I mean. You know what I'm saying? And she didn't, right? And so adjusting to that and letting her kind of grow and have her space, try not to be frustrated, try not to panic, right? She's doing her best, encourage her, support her. If you can have those conversations with each other, that would be great. Now, it's different with a sister who's marrying a man like that. Oh, I think that was that your question? Yes. That was a question that you asked me and I said, don't forget your question, right? The question was, should a woman marry a man? Should a woman who's very knowledgeable in the religion marry a man who's not knowledgeable, not as knowledgeable in the religion, right? And so I'd explained in our discussion after the session that this was the way of the Sahabiyat sometimes, right? Because they were Muslim and they would have some of the mushrikeen, they would come to them and propose marriage and they would say, I can only marry a Muslim. And those men would take their shahada and then marry these women. So obviously you're marrying a man who's a new Muslim. Now they might have also been new relatively, but they still were farther progressed in the religion than the person who just took a shahada is still damp from making ghusl. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's doable, but you got to have realistic conversations with each other. And again, it goes back to that idea. What was this person doing 3 months before they met you? Have they been on this path for a long time, or did they suddenly just meet you and then now they're kind of promising that they're going to do this and do that? You want someone who's been doing it for themselves consistently for a long time. But I cannot stress you enough, brothers, that you do want to marry the most righteous woman that you can. And I'm saying this, I know that there's a habit. I've met a few brothers personally, no one from here. I've met a few brothers personally who they look for new shahadas. They look for women who just came into Islam. And the reason that they want to do that is because these women don't know the religion. And so they can just kind of influence them and tell them things are from the religion or what have you, or they can get away with a whole lot more. But it never works out because if the woman continues to grow, she's going to discover pretty quickly that you've been lying to her. And then she's going to just divorce you. Yes. Mm-hmm. Again, my advice is always marry the most God-fearing person you can find, right? With that being said, again, what is that person's journey before you met her? Has she been working on wearing hijab, because hijab is a complicated issue, right? It's an emotional issue for women just as much as it is a spiritual issue. It's a self-confidence issue for women just as much as it is a spiritual one, right? So you got to have that conversation with her. And I wouldn't just say, oh, don't marry somebody who doesn't wear hijab. You know what I'm saying? Because you might find something in her or she's working toward it, you know, that you feel comfortable and confident that she's been on this track before I met her. Eventually, inshallah, I trust that Allah is going to continue to help her grow and get her there. But again, sometimes we focus on some of the wrong stuff, right? So for instance, again, I can fight, so you got to watch out. I'm about to say this to you. We focus so much on what the women should be doing, we don't focus on what we should be doing. She was like, factory. You know, yes. Sorry, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Then she's not for you. She did fact. There are now. See, but again, but I can't say. All right. Let me clarify my question. Let me clarify my answer. Hold on a second. Let me clarify. I want to clarify my answer. Right. Not every Muslim who opposes something from the Quran, and not every Muslim who opposes something from the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is they're all wrong for doing it. They're not all sinful. And Allah knows best, right? Because a woman who says, I'm not doing anything wrong if I don't wear hijab, you've got to talk to her to find out her rationale as to why she believes that, right? She might be someone who learned her religion from someone who she trusts and who has guided her up until that point correctly. And then this person has a mistaken notion that they teach her too, and she's going to accept that as well because of their esteem and the regard she has for the person who's teaching her. But that's going to be wrong. And is she open to and willing to hear about why that's wrong? Right? And after you advise her and explain it to her, and you've gone over ayat and you've gone over a hadith, you've explained it to her, and then after that, okay, I'm willing to work on it. Okay, I never looked at it that way. That's a different person than the one who says, nope. And then she's coming back at you with ayat and hadith that are like way off. You know, she's pulling stuff from here or there. Then that's what I mean when I say this person is not for you. Right? This is Allah. He says, have you seen the one, akhadha ilahahu hawahu? Have you seen the one who takes as his God, his desires, right? And so you have to be careful that she is not someone who is taking her desires. But again, brothers, we got to answer this question. So what are you going to do, for instance? What are you going to do when a sister comes to you and she says, no, I want to marry a man who has a beard, right? Are you going to do the same thing the other sister does and start saying, well, it's mustahab and right in my culture? Are you going to do that, or right? Are you going to say, okay, Samantha, what's on that? Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he commanded us, just as the women are commanded to wear hijab, the men are commanded to have beards. The men are commanded to be a certain way. No, because one of the Sahaba, his beard did not grow in well, right? And so he shaved parts of it to make it look more presentable. And the Prophet ﷺ remarked to him, he said, now the angels don't have as much to play with, right? Meaning that the malaika, you know, they like to play with the beard of the man. And so when he shaved a portion of it, this is what the Prophet ﷺ said, right? So obviously this is an example of a man whose beard is kind of genetically, it doesn't grow in as, you know, clearly. Huh? Oh. Say it one more time. So now we go into the mahr. The mahar, as we see, is a commandment from Allah Azza wa Jal. Brothers, do you have to pay the mahar? Do you have to pay every woman the mahar that she wants? No. Yes. I have to give a number? Yeah, I don't. I mean, look, 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 I'm losing everybody. Assalamu alaikum. Look at the sisters, like, oh, yeah, yeah. Does he have a brother? Look at the women. They quiet the whole time. Somebody throw out a $500,000. And the women suddenly, I can't breathe. Assalamu alaikum. Hello. Okay, all right, 4 sisters. Look at this. Look at the women you mentioned money. Shame on you. Shame. Right? I'm gonna try to answer that question, but yes. I don't believe it or not. I don't know. I really don't know, because it's not something I think a lot about, believe it or not. And alhamdulillah, I've been blessed with the mahar each time that I was married, that it's never been something crazy, right? But I can tell you, if it's something I can't afford, I have it within me to be able to say, I can't afford that. And like, we moving on. You know what I'm saying? So I think you have to come up personally with what you feel like is acceptable, because a lot of men won't tell you this, because a lot of men have pride too, and men are as susceptible to social pressures in the Muslim community and in the global community, as like Western community, as women are. And they don't tell you that, but they tell me, right? I don't want her not to agree to that because I don't want to look like this, or I really do care about this sister, but if I say that I can't, is she going to really trust that I can't, or how am I going to look, right? So this is what's really going on, though they don't share it with you. And so you also, sisters, I would encourage you to invite the conversation. I want you to tell me if you feel like. A brother called me the other day, and he was, I'm like, what's going on? Calm down. The mu'akhar is $100,000. I was like, brother, you don't have to pay that. You know what I'm saying? Like, just tell the family no, right? Like, it's all right. You know what I'm saying? If you can't pay it, you can't pay it. However they take it, that's how they take it. It's not from the sunnah even anyway, right? So we got to be able to sit with each other and have an honest conversation with each other. And if you get married, it's going to be the same thing, because you, as the spouses, you need to know about money, right? We need to talk to each other about money. How much money I have, how much I can afford, what my means are, where I am now, where I intend to be going professionally, right? I married when I was very young, and I was fresh out of graduate school. I didn't have no money, right? I didn't have no money, but I knew where I was trying to get, and I was just very honest about where I was, right? I'm going to come to you, but I know you have a follow-up to your question. Yes. I don't know. I don't know the rulings. This is what the sheikh, this is on our preview night on the first Saturday. The sheikh, his issue with the mahar was that women, so for instance, my situation, my wife, she said, I want to do Hajj as my mahar. And I had a conversation. I was like, I got to take you to Hajj anyway. Why would you make your mahar something I got to do for you anyway? Right? Like, you sure you don't want anything else? Or blah, blah, blah. And I wound up getting her more than that, right? I didn't show up empty-handed. But at the same time, right, like, you got to have a conversation, because the sheikh, in his opinion, the sheikh, the imam here, he was of the opinion that mahar is something that you give on the day of the wedding, the nikah, which is the wedding. You guys call the wedding the walima. We got to get back to the sunnah. The wedding, the moment that the husband and wife are wed to each other, is the wedding. That's why it's called the wedding. right? Wow, because all of your parents don't understand that, right? They've all started to follow their culture, but the reality of it is that according to the sheikh, everything should be at the nikah. The walima is the celebration to make it known to the community that these two people are married. There used to not be a walima. So there was a time in Islam, if you want to go by your cultural standard, that there was no wedding, as you would call it. People would just get married, right? And so you would have had to have done it all for that. So I would say to you that you got to look into the different rulings, and you got to actually have a conversation with the sister around those rulings, because she might not agree with those rulings, and she might have a standard for herself that's different from yours, right? I don't know anything. I don't know anything from the mu'akhar except that it's not from the sunnah. The mu'akhar itself is not from Islam at all, altogether, in no way. The mu'akhar opposes the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam in two ways. The mu'akhar, number one, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that you cannot make an agreement on the ghaib. I have no shame in saying that. I'm not shy to say what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said you cannot make an agreement on the unseen. And whether you get divorced or not, obviously, is from the unseen. And you cannot make an agreement based on that. This is why insurance is haram. Because insurance is what? An agreement on the unseen. That's why insurance, but every sheikh will tell you that insurance is haram. And then you say, okay, what about the mu'akhar? Oh, yeah, you got to pay it. You want to marry my daughter, you're going to pay that. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that you cannot sustain a woman there's no maintenance for a woman after her divorce. So this is the two ways that the mu'akhar opposes the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, if you say that to a family, they're going to oppose you. Because I don't know a family, and I'm saying this, and I'm not trying to oppress anyone, but I've met many Muslims, and I've met few Muslims who love Islam more than they love their culture. And so when I remind them with Islam, they always say, but, because they want their culture more than they want Islam. You have to decide for yourself whether or not you want to marry into a family that prefers their culture over Islam when their cultural desire conflicts with Islam. There's nothing wrong with loving your culture, but you should always choose Islam over your culture, and all the time, not just in the times that it's convenient. You know what I'm saying? There was another, yes. I don't know that. What's the first payment? I'm saying I don't know because I'm jumping out the window when I hear mu'akhar. The mahar. Wait, no. Is it the mahar or is it a down payment? Is it like when you pay insurance, it's like your deductible? Or the mu'akhar. So I didn't leave you yet, but I got to put this money on. It ain't no loan. Hold on. Assalamu alaikum. Hello. Hold on. Assalamu alaikum. Hold on a second. Listen, I've said this several times. I do have trouble hearing. So the more people talk, it does get very hard to hear. I want to understand this. Yes.
And then 10K mu'akhar. If the husband dies before the inheritance happens, she has to get her 10K in payment. So it's basically debt. So
yeah. So it's like a debt. So we agree 100. Let's say 50,000 will be up. I can only pay 20 now. 30 is only needed. It's being delayed.
I think that's cultural because in some cultures, they only give them offer after like,
If you divorce a person, but all of this, any way you describe it, can you tell me one hadith where the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam either did it himself or commanded the people to do it like that? I'm agreeing to you now that I'm going into a debt, marrying your daughter, that if I die, that you get the balance of, like, again, this is based on what? The unseen. Why do I have a debt? What does marriage have to do with being in a debt? Yeah, the brother's like, yeah, this is this is dhulm. again, this is us not relying on Allah Azza wa Jal. This is us not relying on Allah, so we have to come up with more. We have to come up with something outside of Islam to suffice us. And that, again, brothers and sisters in Islam, and I'm not shy to say this, right? I'm not shy to say this. We have to, if I've been saying anything to you, it's what? That marriage is a form of worshiping Allah. It's part of your ibadah. And so you have to do it according to the way of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If I was to go upstairs and say this to everyone, we have to pray the way the Prophet prayed. Very few people would oppose that. We have to fast the way the Prophet fasted. Very few people would oppose that. We have to recite Quran the way the Prophet recited Quran. Very few people would oppose that. But then if I was to say we have to marry the way the Prophet married, you would find people with pitchforks in the fire, get this brother out of here. This is why we should not let outsiders into the community, right? And so we have to be careful because the Quran is the Quran. We cannot change it. We should just say we're following other than that. The Sunnah is the Sunnah. We should not change it. We should just say we're following other than that, right? Don't say Islam is wrong. Don't say this is a mistake in the Sunnah. Say we're human beings, brother, and we have our own desires, and it does overcome us sometimes. That's better for you to say than to make halal what Allah made haram and make haram what Allah made halal. How many people have mu'akhar and it's against the Sunnah of the Messenger? And this is not a debate. Like anybody, any sheikh, I'm not challenging the sheikh here, but any sheikh can come, what they're going to say? This is not an agreement on the unseen? No, how could you say that? They're not even married yet. So how do you know they're going to get divorced, right? You can't make an agreement like that. Yes. No, don't wait until like the day of the nikah. Like, oh, so babe, how much, what do you need? You should talk about it very early on. Right? And don't be shy to say, sister, as you get to know each other, you start asking each other questions and, it's no shame in saying, okay, but I also want to know how much is your, excuse me, you know what I mean? Like, don't be shy. Again, a lot of this is about being a man. Just be upfront. She's going to tell you what the number is. And then if you don't like the number or you can't afford the number, say, oh, sister, look, I really do like you, but that's very high for me. You know what I mean? And then because you can, again, we look at the ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal, He gives the woman a lot of latitude over her mahar. So she can make an agreement with you, right? As best as you can, inshallah. Yes, then yes. Sisters, there's no question. I feel like I'm kind of rotating through brothers' questions. I think the sisters are still kind of recovering from the $500,000 mahar. They're still just kind of, yes. No, my answer isn't that it couldn't be. I was saying the Sheikh's position. The Sheikh here, his position is, and I can look into it some more and I can come to you with some of the different rulings, but the Sheikh's position is the mahar is something you give at the time of the nikah, right? And so he says it's best for you, it's better for you. Like, so for instance, in my situation, my wife says she wants Hajj. I can't do it. We're not going to get married and then get on the plane and go to Hajj. Right? We could have technically, but that's unusual, right? That's probably not. So he's saying that's not the ideal mahar.
So I've heard like some stories of like people, because obviously if you're getting married relatively young, like fresh out of undergraduate or whatever it is,
Sure.
you don't necessarily have
they'll like the two would agree on like she agrees on like accepting like some sort of jewelry as her mahar for that, for that wedding, I guess, and then they'll agree on him buying her or giving her money later down the line, like buying her whatever she wants to get. I don't know, BMW or something.
But again, you have to be careful because then we start to get into this is the mahar, but it's the unseen. So you have to be careful. We have to be careful with that, right? It might be possible. It might be possible for her to say, and Allah knows best. It might be possible for her to say, "You're agreeing to it now, but I want to also I want to afford you some time to be able to save the money to do it." Right? That might be different, right? So again, it's all up to the family. No, when it could be anything. It could be recitation of the Quran. Look at the sisters, huh? Apparently, recitation of Quran is not going over very well on the other side. Now, hold on. Hello, hold on a second. I want to try to answer this, and I want to come to y'all, inshallah. So the mahar is, in general, what the two intended people agree upon. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, even if it is an iron ring, even if it's just an iron ring, right? Diamond rings were not a thing until like the early 1900s, like 1930. There was no such thing as a diamond wedding ring until then, right? The diamond industry kind of created that, right? And then they did like a campaign to get people to start to buy them. And then that's how diamonds, it's less than 100 years old buying diamond rings for weddings. It's less than 100 years old, right? So your grandparents were alive when there was a time that giving a diamond ring wasn't a thing. That's how quickly trends change, right? You would think it had been around forever, the way that people do it, right? And so it could be anything that the woman herself wants or accepts, right? But you should do your best to try to give her what you're capable of, right? Like you can't have millions of dollars in the bank and then say to a sister, well, I'm going to recite, Surah Al-Alaki, right? Like this is not, you know what I mean? If she wants to accept that, alhamdulillah, you know what I'm saying? We don't know what she got in her bank account. Maybe she was married before and she has $600,000 mu'akhar from the other guy. He paid up. Can I tell you, sister, raise your hands if you know any woman who's received her mu'akhar. One. So I'm saying, it doesn't happen. Are you raising your hand because you know someone who's received their mu'akhar? Okay. All right. Well, hold on. Let me answer these other questions because I want to try to move again some more. Yes. Is there any reason to delay any? That's such a broad question. How could I not say yes? The brother gets into a car accident. He has 8 months of physical therapy to overcome. You know what I mean? Like, what do you? he just got called away to the war, and he's on a ship sailing to some other country. Yes. Sorry. Assalamu alaikum. All right. I think we're losing focus. Go ahead. Sorry. You meant like what?
Let's say, I'm in a rough place in my career or financial reasons.
Sure. Sure. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that, right? If you're not in a position to get married, you should fast. That means that there is such thing as a position to be able to get married, right? And so you want to again, because you have the person you marry in general, the person you marry has a right over you. Your wives have a right over you and your husbands have a right over you. And if you're not in a position to be able to fulfill the rights of the other person because of some circumstance you have in your life, then maybe you should delay getting married until you fix whatever's going on. Right? So that might be a reason why you want to delay it, because you want to have as many of your affairs in order as possible so you don't bring that affair into a marriage. Right? Depending obviously on what some of the situations are. So there are many reasons, but it's about being mature and responsible. And it's about honestly fearing Allah. Right? Is whatever I'm dealing with going to be a burden on the other person? an undue burden? Is it going to get away in the way of our happiness in the marriage, and so on and so on and so on? How's it going to affect them? Because once you get married, like every decision that you make involves the other person in some way or another. You are each now stakeholders in each other's lives. You have to live so much more responsibly because of that. There's nothing that you can do in the darkness of the night that will not eventually affect your spouse, right? And that's from either side. And you have to understand that. I might be comfortable with some weakness that I have, some sin that I have. And when I was single, I could do it as much as I liked. But now in a relationship, that is going to come back on the other person. And we have to be cautious not to harm them, right? I saw a few more hands up, and yes, and then yes.
So you talked about the social dilemma when a woman says this, a man might say it no lower, and then there's a discourse going on between husband and wife to be. I can't say that I've seen any situation where this is the case. Usually, it's the woman gives her father a number, and the son gives his father a number, and the fathers will talk it out, and they come to an agreement on their own.
Alhamdulillah. Do both of the people that are getting negotiated on their behalf agree to that? Then there you go. Right? If the son agrees to allow his father to negotiate from him, and the daughter agrees to allow her father to negotiate for her, and then they both come back and report it back to you and say, okay. Because the two men could agree on it and come back, and then one of them says, no, I don't, Baba, you messed up. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with that too. And then the father can go back and say, okay, I consulted with my child, and actually this was the blah, blah, blah. And they try to work it out. But again, our feelings get caught up in, oh, do you know my family is from this village in Yemen, and we have all of the majesty, and how we get lost in those kinds of things instead of saying, okay, I understand. Well, let me go back to my child, and then blah, blah, blah. Like, we're not trying to offend or hurt each other. Why do we treat each other like that? Right? Yes. What was based on what the family agrees? I don't let anybody say I said something without understanding. What was I don't know what you're saying I was talking about.
My question is, like, a lot of times what happens is it's not usually up to the girl when they ask for one. It's kind of like the parents want this, and then they'll like say that we want this, and then it's not like really up to the decision of the girl herself.
Does the daughter accept that? She can say no. She can say no. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said you can't marry a woman without her permission. Right? Allah Azza wa Jalla, he says that you can't inherit a woman karha, in a hated way, in the way that she dislikes or despises. Right? So if she doesn't like it, she can always say what? No, that's not what I want. And she can hold firm, because this now we play like chicken. We're playing chicken with each other. The parents are going to pressure you to see when you'll break. You can just not break. Look them in the eye like, nope. You know what I'm saying? Until you just make it easy on yourself, and this is what I want. Let's sit and talk and negotiate with each other. It's because they don't have to live in a situation that you're marrying into. A lot of parents get what they want and then they dip off. Don't let them do that. Right? This is your life. You have to take control of it, and you have to let them know exactly what you would like for yourself. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't have any influence. They're your parents. They have a lot of rights and responsibility and authority. Absolutely. But the choices at the end are always yours. And so whatever you agree to, whether you hated it or loved it, you must take accountability for having agreed to it, hated or not. Right? So that's the best way I would put it. Yes.
Let's say there was a scenario where a brother was in the process of getting married to a sister, and she's very righteous, all the boxes are checked off, but there's a disagreement on the matter, and they're being pretty stubborn with the number that they want. Would your advice to him be to just break it off and move on to a different person, or should keep trying to get them lower no matter what?
Does the sister like the brother?
I guess, yeah. Like everything works out. Everything is working out. She's a good Muslim. She's on her deen, all that kind of stuff. He's also a good man. He's on his deen, like very
Alhamdulillah.
couple. What would your advice be to him if he comes and says, okay, her and her father or her and whoever are being stubborn?
So she herself is being stubborn, not the family.
Her and her family, or just her by herself.
I'm going to tell you something. Listen, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot doing business. You cannot want a deal bad enough where you won't walk away from it. Right? You got to be serious. I once went to buy a house, and we found something wrong with the house. Right? And so when we put in a bid for the house, we put in our bid, right? And then we won the bid. Then we found out something was wrong with the house. We walked away. You know what the bank said? The bank didn't say, oh, bring on the next person in their bid. You know what the bank said? Tell us how much you want to pay for the house. We'll take it. Right? You have to be willing to say no. But what happens is you're already in love. Again, she already has a nickname. You know what I'm saying? Y'all are already 2 seasons into Stranger Things, right? So, so you all messed up in the game, right? And so that's how she knows she got you. You know, she see your heart pumping. You're nervous when you talk to her. She's like, oh yeah, I need 50 of them joints. You want to marry me, right? Because she knows she got you. And then you're like, oh, sister, may Allah bless you and guide you. I hope you find a brother who can afford that. You're a great, beautiful sister. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'm going to keep you in my dua. What do you think is going to happen? Huh? I'm getting a lot of that's not trues over there. I'm going to tell you. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm just saying this to entertain you. But the reality of it is that if you cannot agree, you cannot agree. That's like if the sister was smoking cigarettes and you said, sister, I don't want to marry someone who smokes cigarettes. And she said, well, take it or leave it. I smoke cigarettes. You have a responsibility in that moment, which has happened. You have a responsibility in that moment. If you accept it, guess what you did? You accepted it, right? And so if you leaving, you leaving. And if a sister wants an amount of money that you cannot afford, you tell her, you try to negotiate with her. If she's not being amenable to it, then we couldn't agree, because you guys make this mistake. And this is what I said before. You start off wanting to know if you're compatible. And then it turns into we're talking to each other so that we get married. And that's not why you're talking. You're not talking so that you get married. You're talking to determine whether you're compatible for marriage. And the mahar is an element of that compatibility. Right? And if you're not able to agree on it, then you don't agree on it. Just like if you weren't able to agree on any other thing, right? Now, if she likes you and she doesn't agree on the mahar herself, and it's her father who's pushing the mahar, well, then you let the sister do all of the work, to be honest with you. She's going to push her family. She really wants to marry you, and you're serious about marrying her. If you got this certain money, here's what I would do with the sister. To be honest with you, just as a man, I would send her a screenshot of all whatever the number is that she and I agree on. I send her a screenshot of that money in the bank. Just so you know, I ain't playing. Just so you know, I'm not doing it to entice you. I'm doing it to show you that I'm serious. I'm not agreeing to something and then I'm a 52 fake you out. Here it is right here. And then I'm going to let her go home to her father and be like, Baba, you messing my situation up. Right? And support her, encourage her, and hopefully, you know, Baba comes along. Right? There's a lot of questions. Yes. Are you materialistic? There's nothing wrong with being materialistic. Right? Look at this. Look at the sisters. See, when we mention ayat, all the sisters, you know, we start throwing numbers out. Brother, just so you know, pay attention. Yes, go ahead. There's not necessarily anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with materialism, right? There's nothing wrong with materialism. Allah Azza wa Jal, he says to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Wala tansa haddaka min ad-dunya," right? Don't forget your portion of the dunya, right? We know that when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he says that the person with an atom's weight of pride will never enter into paradise, what did they say? Ya Rasulullah, every man loves that his clothes and his shoes will look nice. Everybody want to be fresh. Everybody want to look good, right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was described one time. One of the Sahaba said, "I've never seen a man more handsome than him on that day." Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was, he had a drip, right? And so it's not necessarily anything wrong with like wealth and spending money and buying nice things. What did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? If you buy a house, try to buy a big house. Right? Look at this. It's like, right? And so it's not does the materialism distract from the worship of Allah? Because Allah Azza wa Jalla, when we look at Surah Al-Fajr, right? We look at Surah Al-Fajr. Allah Azza wa Jalla, he says when he tries mankind, when he tries humanity by giving him wealth, Allah Azza wa Jalla, he describes it as an ibtila. Wealth. Giving you money is a trial from Allah. Right? Because it's going to make you, again, most of you guys, I'm sure some of you are college students, right? When you get that first refund check, right? You be in the mall, but did you forget Dhuhr? Right? You scrambling to the fitting room, you know what I mean? Somewhere trying to catch, you got 3 minutes before Asr comes in. You didn't pray Dhuhr yet because you want to just throw it in the bag, right? So this is a test. And so does the person spending money distract them from al-hakumut takathur, right? These are all the short swords. There's so much meaning in it. Right? So if a sister is beyond your means, you might want to say, sister, you're beyond my means. Or again, because the woman's money is all her own, if you want to marry the sister, then you should potentially not oppose her working. Right? And then have an agreement with the sister. That money is your money. Obviously, it's not the family money. You want to spend that on yourself, you know what I'm saying? Like, get dripped out? All right, do that. And then I'm going to take care of all of the necessities. When I can give you more, I'm going to surprise you here and there with this and that. Things I know you like. But the necessities, I got that. The basics, I got that. And then anything beyond that you want for yourself, tafaddali. I hope that answers your question. Right? And if it's beyond you, like, no, I can't do it. Right? Some people like abstemiousness, and that's fine. Sisters, right? Calling all righteous sisters. Right? This is Sahih Bukhari. This is, in fact, acceptable as a mahr. That's like probably like $130. Right? My brother, he says, I got no money down on me. The reason I say it's acceptable as a mahr is because if you accept it, it's acceptable. Right? If Surah Al-Fatiha is acceptable as a mahr, then really, relatively anything is acceptable as a mahr as long as the woman herself is the one who freely accepts it for herself. Sisters, can I tell you a secret? If Sahih Bukhari is not acceptable for you as a mahr, what should you do? Say no. Don't marry the brother. Then he don't want to spend no money on you. And then y'all fight for 6 years, have 3 kids, and then you call me and you want to tell me on the first night of marital counseling, oh yeah, and did you know that when we got married, he gave me Sahih Bukhari, ain't he cheap? This is what women do. 3 kids in, ain't he cheap? Yes. Uh-oh. I heard the word cap. I don't know what it means. Is that a thing that young people are saying? I know what it means. That's right. Because you capping.
And then you come tell me, oh, I don't got that. And it's like, what happens then?
You got to throw the salam over your shoulder. So I go.
No girl is gonna just be difficult to you. No girl's gonna say, I want this and no
No woman is going to be difficult just to be difficult. I wish my wife came here tonight. Oh, I wish. Sometimes I see my daughter and my wife talking, and I look at my wife and I say, welcome. Well, because my daughter be wilding. And I be looking at my daughter like, I mean, look at my wife like, you deserve every bit of it. Go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but that was just, wow. Yes, thank you. Sister. I want to say that you have the clear-headed folly, right? This is the folly of the clear-headed. You think because you're a rational, responsible, intelligent, mature person that everyone is like that. So, I agreed, my first marriage, I agreed on the mahar, right? I agreed on the mahar. And I'm not saying this to bash the sister. I'm not. May Allah bless her, grant her righteousness, enter her into Jannah without hisab, all of the good stuff. But I can tell you, we agreed on the mahar. She started whispering stuff the closer we get to the nikah. She said, well, my mahar, I want a trip to Bora Bora. And it took everything within me to not say to her, show me where Bora Bora is on the map. You don't even know. You just heard it. It was in a rap song somewhere, and you was like, oh, we lit. We not lit. So she started whispering. I said, well, look, now what would have been cheaper? The mahar or Bora Bora? Bora Bora would have been cheaper, right? But I'm not moving, like, you moving weird. I'm not. So I'm like, look, we agreed on it. If you want to change it, then I don't agree. Right? And again, sound like real quick. All right, well, then we don't agree on the mahar. Sound like a sister, I wish we could have made it work out. Ooh, wait. Right? All right, so then we super straight. Day of the nikah, my family shows up, her family shows up. We walking into the masjid. Hey, can I talk to you real quick? Sure. We get outside, what she say? All right, so look, I want to revisit the Bora Bora situation. My mother, father, everybody that came up. You know, what did I say to her? What do you think I said to her? Look, my whole family here, we just gonna go to dinner, with you or without you. We all here. Sound like? I'm black. We don't say assalamu alaikum, we say salalik. 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 Sister. We agree, your family, I'll be the bad guy. I told her just up front, I didn't insult her, but I was like, listen, I told you I don't agree. I don't agree. And we can go back in there and get married, or we can go back in there and explain to everybody that we're not getting married today. What did she say? We get married. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm not telling y'all anything I ain't lived myself. Right? So when you say, oh, no woman is like this and no woman is like that, do you mean men who got surgeries and became women? Because women are like that. right? Look at the women now, they have tongues and can talk. No, of course you know that I mean some. I don't mean every woman is like that. Obviously, I keep saying to the brothers, marry a righteous woman and so on. But we should not overestimate our ability to be irrational sometimes. Right? And it might not be with this thing, but it might be with something else. And the men have the same capacity too. We should do our best to communicate. I know I'm saying all this stuff to be dramatic. I gotta entertain you. I can't just be up here straight for 6 weeks, right? So I want you to take some of this with a grain of salt. Some of it is meant to get your attention. But the reality is that if it's not this, it's something else. And so we have to be careful about how we treat each other. And sister, you might not be the person who asks a man for what's more than within his needs, his means, but that doesn't mean the sister's behind you. The sister's behind you be like, I don't know what she's talking about. My number's my number. And which it should be. Her number's her number. That's what she wants it to be. But don't go looking for brothers who ain't got it. If your number's 50, right? If your number's 50, then you gotta go for a guy who can meet 50. Don't go running after a guy who you know is capping on Instagram and then be like, oh, those Jordans wasn't yours, right? Like, yeah, right? You have to find people who that's where they are, and that's what they're capable of doing. Yes, he should. Yes. But you shouldn't let him get that far. Let's get down to brass tacks. So when is a brother? Walk me through the scenario. All right, then I'm out. You gotta no. I'm not saying she. Maybe you shouldn't ask him the first day you meet him, right? Like bring your pay stub, right? Like that's not. Let me see the Carfax on your car. You know what I mean? Are you keeping this thing maintained or not? Right? Let me see your credit report. But you should eventually see all of that. I know a brother. He makes anybody that wants to marry any one of his daughters. You got to come with a criminal history report, and you got to come with all of your STD records. Like you got to go get all your STD tests and bring all that back. I need all that. Criminal record, medical history, you can see all that. Right? Which is not unreasonable. That's not unreasonable. That's his standard. That's the standard. We should all be doing that. I personally know someone who he got a disease from a woman who her ex-husband had been cheating on her, and she didn't know she got a disease from him. So when she divorced him for cheating and she remarried, she didn't know that she had a disease. And he married her. He got the disease. The disease is incurable. Right? So, I mean, like, this is just the reality. You should be asking for people what you expect of them. Right? So maybe day one, pay stub conversation, day one isn't where, but once you feel sufficiently enough, like the brother knows who I am, he's gotten to see my character, I've gotten to see his character, but I also want to have a conversation with him about finances. And I don't want to be invasive, and I want to respect your boundaries. If you're not comfortable yet, that's fine. We don't got to turn it into a fight. But I want to talk to you about, like, how much do you earn? Right? I want to be as respectful as you can be about it. Right? And because I want to see the paperwork. You know what I mean? Do you mind sending us a pay stub so that we can see for ourselves? Because you'll never know. He could Photoshop that and throw the comma wherever he wants on that check. But to have the conversation, brother, we want to see your criminal history. Brother, we want you to get a blood workup. We want to know about, because you got to ask people about their medical histories. I know another sister who called me devastated. Devastated. Married a brother, very popular in the community. Everybody knows him, real famous, blah, 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 moving real big. But early in Islam, he was sleeping around, got back on the deen, wound up getting a disease, didn't know he had it. Woman was saving herself for marriage. She winds up getting it from him. Now she's devastated. The brother's calling me up, oh my God, I messed my marriage up, blah, blah, blah. So, like, we got to have there's nothing that you can leave off the table. And it's not to be disrespectful. It's not because I don't trust you. It's not because I think the worst of you, but it's because we need to be responsible with each other. Right? And if you can't be like upfront enough, we're all adults. These are adult things. And how many of you in the process of how many people in here who are married, your parents told you make sure you get an STD test and make the other person get an STD test. No one's thinking about any of that. But we need to be. And so it's on you to think of the things your parents can't think of, didn't think of, or it's not culturally common for them to think of. Right? We live in a whole nother world. I saw a few hands up. So I hope I'm answering your question. Right? Talk to the brother. Look, I want to see all of it. You want to see my paperwork. You're going to want to know if I'm a virgin or not, right? And no brother's shy to tell you about that's like almost day 2 stuff. He don't start with that, but certainly, he's going to, that's his priority, right? He don't mind asking you. You shouldn't mind asking him. All right, let's trade. Here's the answer to whether I'm a virgin or not on this piece of paper right here. I'm going to slide this over to you, and you're going to slide over your pay stub, okay? All right, 1, 2, 3, go. Right? Yes, I saw a hand. Hold on, I saw a hand. Hurry up before I'm going to move on to the next topic. Yes.
You can meet the right person and no matter how old you are, you can straight out of college be income, right? So can you say if you're compatible and you guys really have that the luck is all right in marriage, that you guys are if you say if you're in it for the sake of Allah, right? That it's gonna be easier to get through all the experience.
Yes and no. Yes and no. And I agree with the foundation of what you're saying. But a person who's not able to make it work for you, it doesn't mean they're not in it for the sake of Allah. Right? That's the only thing I would say. You can't say that a person who was not able to overcome some other priority, that they didn't have the right intentions for talking to you, is that their priority is an important priority. Right? And that might be their limit. A brother said to me, you know what you want, stick to it. And that's the best advice I can give you. If you know what you want, you should stick to it. Do not compromise too much on what you're looking for in a spouse, because then you'll come to resent the person for not being what you want, but you chose them. Right? So try to get as close to what you want as possible. Right? In my relationship, me and my wife, neither one of us were who we thought we will end up with. Right? But we were the majority of what we wanted. The most fundamental things were what we wanted. Right? And we both have a conversation about how we were surprised to find in someone that we didn't think the person was going to be like. Right? I didn't think I was going to marry someone her age or from her culture. I didn't see any of that. And she said the same thing. The thing she says to me over and over, I never thought I would marry a convert. I couldn't imagine in a million years I'd marry a convert. Just wasn't on her mind. We met each other. We liked each other a lot. It was nasib. Right? But on bigger things, obviously, you got to stick to them. Yes and then yes. I'm going to go straight back. Again, this is the same thing. This is the ghaib. You're making an agreement to some degree on the ghaib, as opposed to Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam have already set the standard. Right? Now, if a woman, you should marry someone who fears Allah enough to not take you through the courts. Right? Who's going to go try to get your money? I don't understand what you mean. No, you can get no. It's not a guarantee. Again, I was legally married and got legally divorced. Right? And I never paid anything. Right? But I was relying on the law. Because she tried, she just didn't have the wherewithal to organize herself enough. Because people called me, your wife calling around asking questions about this, that, and this, that. Let her call. I'm relying on the law. right? The legal system is what it is, but Allah is who He is, right? Man adali waliyan faqad adantuhu biharb, right? Allah is the one. So you want to marry somebody, have that conversation. Do you believe in this? Do you believe in that? Do you believe in alimony? There's no such thing as alimony. There's no such thing as palimony in Islam, except that the woman might be nursing your child. And then you have to take care of her expenses. So Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam have already created the framework for that. If you have a woman who believes in other than that, I once saw a sheikh, he will go unnamed. He says a lot of weird stuff. And he said, I know what Islam says, but I believe there should be alimony. He's saying to you with his own tongue, I know what Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, but I believe in other than what they sent down. SubhanAllah. So you have to ask the person a question. Do you believe in this? How do you see that? And they give you answers that you feel like you can trust. You can move forward with them or not. Then you got to rely on Allah after that. Yes. Sorry. I'm sorry. Hold on. But you can put things in the marriage contract, right? These are the principles that we are agreeing to right now. We're agreeing to this as an Islamic principle. We're agreeing to that as an Islamic principle. We're agreeing to this as an Islamic principle. We're agreeing to that. You can put in the marriage contract all of the things that you agree. We're going to go over the marriage contract. You can put all of those things in there, which would include there is no maintenance after divorce. We can put all of that in the contract. Then the woman is contractually saying, I agree to that as a principle in Islam. And then you can bring that into court when she tries to get alimony, or you can bring that into court when he tries to get palimony. There are Muslim brothers who do the same thing to their wives. I was just on the phone with a sister before I walked in the masjid. She got a ton of money, and her husband shut down all of his businesses so he can look poor so she can pay him. It's real. She just explained it to me right before I walked in the masjid. Yes. So my opinion is this. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, hold on a second. There's a lot of commotion. I'm going to ask you, ladies, all of the women I'm watching you sharing with each other, share with us. Yes. Oh, look at that hand. Like, that was like, why? Correct. So, but again, you talk about social pressure, right? A lot of men feel like they need to agree to a woman working, even though they don't agree. Because they don't want to look like oppressors. They don't want to look like men from the Stone Age. But what these men really want is a homemaker. And they're very shy to say that. And I'm not saying it to say it's blameworthy, but the men feel like once they say that, they look like Neanderthals, right? And so again, you guys got to have the courage to have an honest conversation with each other about what you want. And sometimes, sisters, I can say sometimes that might mean kind of broaching the issue. Brother, are you sure that's what you want? Or do you feel like that's what you got to tell me because you feel like I'm going to be disappointed, or you really like me? And if you don't say what I want to hear, I'm going to start to back away from you, which is what happens. Because sometimes a lot of men, in my experience, a lot of men don't realize they want a homemaker. They'll come into the conversation kind of inculcated. I want a working woman. I want a woman who wears a suit and high heels and a hijab and goes to work 9 to 5 on Wall Street, because they've been told that's what they should want, because that's who women want to be. And so, which not every woman wants to be that, right? And so no one's being honest with each other. And the women are saying that's who they want to be. I want to wear a suit and work on Wall Street, when really they want to be homemakers. And so everyone is, you know what I'm saying, instead of just being honest with themselves. Yes, sister. You got to have a lot of honest conversations, because the reality is, and again, this is what we talked about post-marital counseling. Your needs change as you grow up and you get older. And you, again, a lot of men don't realize that they want a homemaker. I've had brothers talk to me, and I'm like, "Hey, brother, do you realize what you're saying to me?" And this is a revelation even to them. And then they feel good. Oh my God, is that what I want? Does that mean this about me? No, you want to stay at home mom. You want a woman who's home. And, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Find a woman who wants that and marry her. Right? And so part of that is to actually, okay, what has emerged? What has changed for you? We're married with each other now. A lot of things, when you get married, a lot of stuff that y'all talked about sometimes will need to get reworked and have conversations, as long as you don't become enemies to each other and trying to resolve it. And, try to be patient with each other. Right? Okay, I understand once we get married and the rubber hits the road, things change. We see what the reality of married life is like. Like, let's talk about it. Instead of, oh, here you go, I knew he was trying to trap me. That's usually not as helpful. What are your needs? What are my needs? Because a lot of times, and a lot of brothers don't realize this, a lot of women work because they like being productive. They like feeling independent. It's sometimes more about the purpose, feeling purposeful, having meaning in your life. You have a passion that you want to pursue. And then the husband says, well, I make $130,000, $140,000, $225,000. Why does this woman need to work? Right? And the guys just say, I don't understand. And it's because she wants to have some other meaning and purpose. She wants to contribute to society, right? There are bigger meanings around working. And so, but we don't try to understand each other. And a lot of couples don't realize understanding each other doesn't mean agreeing. And so some of us will refuse to understand because we connote understanding with agreeing. If I understand, it means I agree, or the person is going to take it to me and I agree. And sometimes just, oh, I understand. And sometimes a brother is afraid to lose you. I know a brother right now, he doesn't want to let his wife work because he doesn't want her to experience independence. Because if she experiences independence, he's deathly afraid she's going to divorce him, and he's afraid for a reason. He has not been the ideal husband. I'm putting it mildly. Right? And so I told him as much. I said, if you are one paycheck away from your wife leaving you, meaning if the minute your wife gets a paycheck, she's leaving you, then you have bigger problems already. Right? Those are the problems you need to solve, not her getting a job. Right? And so again, a lot of this is, sisters, you got to marry a man who's strong enough to have that conversation. Brothers, you got to be strong enough to have that conversation and marry a woman who's mature enough to have it with you too. Because the woman will bring up the issue. It doesn't mean that she's mature enough to have the discussion. And women, you can bring up the issue, but it doesn't mean the man that you married, he can push you around in the house. It doesn't mean he's strong enough to talk to you. Right? And so you got to see all of that in the process of getting to know each other. This is why you should not be distracted with pet names and I want to buy you a sweater. You said this is your favorite color. You guys get distracted doing all of that, and you're not actually doing the work of getting to know each other. Right? This is the brother talking to the sister. They're fooling around in his car and checking each other's cell phones. Right? Instead of worshiping Allah together. Right? Yes, sister. Such as?
Like she has work at 7 a.m. He would talk to her all night, not let her end the phone call so she doesn't get too tired and go to work in the morning. And then once they get married, he asks her to leave, either like quit her job or get divorced.
Whose fault is that?
But she didn't know.
Yes, she did know. Every time she tried to hang up, you see what I'm saying?
No, like she didn't know. No, it's not necessarily like days. Like she wouldn't tell her I'm calling you.
No. Sister, a brother calls you, y'all are on the phone. Number one, what are y'all doing on the phone all night? Right? Where's the wali? So number one, right? What you doing talk to him all night on the phone in the first place? right? What are you doing on the phone all night talking to him with no wali in the first place, right? So if you're trying to get off the phone, the brother won't let you get off the phone, there's something wrong with that. And so you need to say, hey, why won't you let me off the phone? You should say that after you say, hey, why are you talking to me on the phone anyway without my wali? Number one, right? Yes. Define engaged, like the Fatiha? Fatiha engaged?
Yeah. Like, no, engaged, like rings on, whatever. Just like.
That's not engaged, but that's not engaged. That's not engaged. Did you have a nikah? You signed a contract, there were witnesses in the imam? Yeah, you're not married. He's still haram. Can you go over his house and get in the shower? That answers your question, right? Listen, and you know what, sis? I'm not even going to be funny. I'm not even trying to be funny, but you saw me while you were talking, skip these slides, right? Because I'm like, nah, they got it. In my head, while you were talking, I'm like, nah, they got this. Y'all don't got this. Y'all don't got this. Y'all are letting a lot of your guards down. Listen, what did I say? What did I just say about the brother and the sister, right? They're fooling around in the car and checking each other's phones. Why are they doing that? Because they're unsupervised. There's no one watching over what they're doing. I'm not lying to you. I just was like, nah, I don't gotta go over this. I've said this enough. That man has no right or responsibility or authority over you. You should not be talking to anybody all night, overnight. You shouldn't even be in that situation, because that's how you wind up marrying somebody who's not right for you in the first place, because you are alone. Do you know this word, the thrall? Right? You're in someone's thrall. I'm enthralled with this person. They have captured your mind and your heart, right? That's what happens. And every man, I'm telling you, I'm a man. That's what I want from you. Once I know I got that, I can get you to do anything I want you, because love will make a woman do anything a man wants. And I try to tell the husbands that. Don't command your wife into doing what you want. Love her into doing what you want. Most men don't want to do that. But in the beginning, they get that. And it switches. I want you to love me. I'm going to make you love me, and you'll do whatever I want. Then I marry you. Now you're trapped. Now I just command you through it all. I'm not making this up. So you should not be talking to this brother, because it's dangerous for you. And you don't know that. You don't believe it. You think your father's lying to you. He's not. He's telling you the truth. He's trying to control me. I'm a grown woman, Baba. Okay. Right? And before you know it, you're going to be like the sister. The brother calls me, oh my God, Dr. Ray, I messed up. How you messed up? We fooled around in a car, and now she feels guilty, and she's so mad at me, and blah, blah, blah. I said, brother, did you think about, you were only thinking about what you wanted to do with her in the car when you were doing it, yes? Did you think about today? Did you think about the conversation you're having with me now? Did you think about how she's going to feel, and how angry she is with herself, and how angry she is with you? All of these things. Did you think about any of this? No. You were only thinking about your desire. And I try to tell people, the sin, it's like a veil. Once you finish your sin, Allah removes the veil. Allah knows best what he does, but it's like a veil that gets put over us, and then it's removed. The minute we're free from our sin, oh my God, why did I do that? And all of your, we call it post-clarity, right? Then you realize what your sin is. Oh my God. And everything you could have done to avoid the sin seems so simple. But when you wanted the sin, none of that came to mind. And they weren't even hurdles. Sister, you do not want to be talking to a man alone all night with him. You don't want to be meeting up with a man alone. You don't want to do any of that stuff. All of it puts you at risk. And it's not to say the man has bad intentions. It might be that you love each other dearly. And that love is going to want to make you connect with each other. And then all right, maybe I'll hold her hand. You know, we're both coming out of Starbucks, and she's leaving to the left, I'm leaving to the right, but maybe I'll hold her hand a little bit while we say salam, and we'll turn away. But that's the beginning of something. I feel that little palpitation in my heart. So now, instead of holding her hand just to say salam on the way out of Starbucks, now it's when we sit down in Starbucks. right? Now we're holding hands the whole time in Starbucks. Now we're holding hands. I want a hug. Now I get a hug. Ooh. Right? Ooh wee. Where can I get more than a hug? Right? You sure you don't want to ride home? Right? In turns, am I making any of this up? This is how your heart gets to you. It's not that you're just sinful people. Love will do that to you. Love will do that to you. That's why the safeguards are in place, because love is going to make you want to get closer. So the brother should not be talking to you all night. And if you notice that he's doing something that's wrong, point it out. Listen, I notice you don't want to let me sleep. Why is that? You don't want to let me off the phone. Why is that? No one hides this stuff for too long. You're going to start to see it. The answer to your question. You think that he's something nefarious is going on, you're going to see it. You know what happens is you excuse it because you love him. No. And then you get all righteous. No, let's have husnul fun. You know, this is the Muslims. You start telling yourself all of these explanations that you can accept. And you're not seeing the reality of what the person is presenting to you because you want to be with them. And you got to be real. You got to be honest. And this is why you should stay away from all of those other things, because it's going to make you agree to be in a bad situation. I hope I'm answering your question with other than what. No, sister, you should have done this before. This is all stuff before. He's not going to just keep you off the phone. He's going to show you all kinds of other signs that he doesn't want you to do whatever. He's going to say little things, make little comments, send you. You're going to see it. It's just you have to not ignore it. Then you marry him. So all of this stuff, number one, should be in your contract. I love that look. I love that look. This is the sunnah. Lan tadillu ma tamassaktum bihima. You will not go astray so long as you hold on to those two things, the book of Allah and the sunnah of his prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We are supposed to have a marriage contract. That marriage contract should be robust. Don't start having kids with this man when you're fighting from day one. You want to go to work and then suddenly he hits you with the 52 fake out. Then you want to have kids and all that other kind of stuff. And then you tell me you stuck. No. You knew all of this on day one when you married him. A woman called me like that just a couple months ago. Oh, my son left Islam because of this, because of that. Sister, how's your relationship with your husband? It's terrible. That's why he left Islam. Does your husband pray? No, he never prayed. And you stay married to him? Yeah, brother, what was I going to do? I had kids. You mean you married him and then you got pregnant the night of and you never saw him pray and you had a baby in 45 minutes? And then you were stuck? Or you were married to him for 6 or 7 years, then you have kids and you watched them never pray all that time? And that's what happened. You stayed with him day 1, he didn't pray. Day 1,000, he didn't pray. Day 3,000, he didn't pray, and you stayed with him. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. You stayed with him. No one forced you to do that, sisters. Divorce is a thing. And how do we know the khula in Islam? How do we know the khula in Islam? There's only one hadith on the khula. Come on, y'all. See, that's what I'm saying. We mentioned $500,000, everybody jump out the roof. Right? If I mention sneaky links, everybody knows what that means. Look at everybody laughing. And then I say khula, everybody's like, huh? The khula is the divorce of the woman. It's not a divorce, it's an annulment. Right? It's not a divorce, it's an annulment. A woman comes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and she says, I have no problem with my husband in terms of his deen and his character. Right? But I fear for myself, Islamically with Allah, if I was to stay married to him. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, if you'll give him back his mahr, you can leave him. And so she says, okay, I'm going to give it back. The Prophet ﷺ calls for her husband. He says, your wife wants to leave you, and she's agreed to give back her mahr. It was a beautiful garden. And he said, do you accept it? The man said, yes. He said, return it to her. That's return it to him. And that was it. This is the only instance of the khula, as far as I know, and Allah knows best, that we have in our ahadith. Right? You guys are looking to get married. What do y'all do all night? What do y'all do all night? If you on TikTok, y'all gotta like study the religion. You want to get married. You gotta sit and read and understand these things. Sisters, if you marry a brother and then he starts trying to violate the contract, then you have to get all of that adjudicated. But I love him. No. You advise him, you negotiate with him. If that's not working, then you go to each other's families. If that's not working, then you go to the imam. If that's not working, maybe you have to get divorced, make a sakhana. This person might have duped you into a marriage. That's my answer to your question. If he starts doing all of that and he's not who he said he was. You married who he said he was. You find out someone other than that, I didn't marry you. You're not the one I married. And so you might have to divorce him. I know it's shameful. I know your families are going to go crazy. I know your fathers are not going to want you to divorce the guy because, oh, what are people going to say back to me in my village where there's no Wi-Fi? Listen, this is your life. And so you have to marry wisely and you have to also divorce wisely. We have just a couple, yes. No. In every case that a woman wants a khula, she has to give it back. Right? In every case, the woman has to give it back. If the man accepts it or not is a whole nother story. But you must give back the mahr. Right? This is every case. And so the bar for divorcing your husband, so a lot of men will say, oh, but Allah's curse is going to be on you. You don't have a good enough reason to divorce me. Right? Allah curses, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Allah curses the woman who divorces her husband for no reason. Right? Yeah. But let's look at the hadith. What's the reason that the woman gave for divorcing her husband? He's a good man. He's a good Muslim. I fear for myself if I stay in this marriage. Meaning I don't want to be with him anymore. Maybe she didn't love him. Maybe, whatever, they grew apart, whatever. But she just didn't want to be with him anymore. The Prophet ﷺ did not interrogate her beyond that. Okay, are you willing to give back the mahr? Yes. Okay, fine. Agreed. Ittafaqna. Right? So the bar is very low. Don't let a man tell you don't have a good enough reason to leave him. Allah and his messenger have established what is a good enough reason. And the bar for that is very, very low. Right? Any other questions? No? The woman always has a good reason in general. Like if her reason is she wants to go sleep with, Abdullah because he's more handsome and has big muscles she saw on Eid, that's a different story. But these kinds of situations, I'm saying to you in general, a woman just not wanting to be in a marriage is a good enough reason. So why wouldn't him being abusive? The Prophet ﷺ, as we see from Abu Jahm, the Prophet ﷺ told a woman not to marry a man who beats her. So what is the condition of a woman staying married to a man who beats her? Yes. Are you saying no because you feel like the answer should be no? Hold on. Or are you saying no because you have some evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah? Okay, help me out. I didn't see, but hold on a second, sister. And this is what I mean. Sister, what was my question to you? I said, do you have evidence from the Quran and from the Sunnah? What was your answer to that question? Yes. She said yes. Everyone heard her say yes. And they'll say, okay, tell me. And then her answer was, ask the sheikh. And I'm not saying this I'm not fighting with you, sister. But what I'm saying to you is in Islam, we get used to shooting from the hip. We call it shooting from the hip. You know what it means to shoot from the hip? You pull your gun, it's on your hip, and you aim like that real quick, and you hope it hits whatever your target is. We can't do that with Islam because we don't want to lie on Allah and His Messenger. If we say we need to have some sort of evidence from the Quran or some sort of evidence from the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so, sister, I would advise you to go to the sheikh. If the answer is ask the sheikh, then the sheikh should be the one to give you the evidences to say that she does not have to return it. I don't know anything that says that, so I'm not going to say that, yes, there are circumstances where she doesn't have to return it. All I know is if a woman wants to divorce her husband, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam has established that she should return the mahar. If there's different rulings and all that other kind of stuff, we can explore it, and I'll explore it. I'm not shy to do that. And when we meet again, we'll come back to it. Yes. So number one, she should save the money or borrow the money or try to go into some agreement with the brother that she's going to work toward giving him the money, or I'm going to pay X amount back to you until it's all paid, right? And that he might agree to it. I have a woman who just did that because her husband was all over the place. First he wants to sign it, then he doesn't want to sign it, then she can go, then she can say, oh, I never said it. Then we got all the text messages with him agreeing to it. She got audio with this guy. And so then at the end, he's like, well, I just don't want to let her go. Brother, you agreed, just sign the form, let her go. She's going to give you your money. Oh, I don't want the money anyway. We are Muslims, we're all men. Everybody heard that. We're witnesses. Okay, you don't want the money back? All right, sister. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Yes. Yes. Yep. That's correct. I know. Yeah, that's what she said. Abuse. Yep. Yep. This is what we know from the Sunnah. Right? This is what we know from the Sunnah. Now, does it seem fair for us? Maybe not. It doesn't seem fair. But this is what we have from the Sunnah, and it's better at least to fear Allah in doing it. Allah, you know best whether or not this is just for me. I'm going to commit to paying it. Make dua to Allah. Allah, let me out of this. And you never know, because a man might say, just like the other guy, I don't want any of her money. Okay, he said it to a whole bunch of Muslim men. All right, we got it, sister. He says you don't have to pay none of it back. We're all witnesses. There's more than 2 men here. Assalamu alaikum. Right? And we gotta stop. Yeah, we'll stop with this question. Next week, listen, when we meet next week, Dr. Marva is going to be here. I'm going to let her speak, but I have a lot of role plays and stuff. We're trying to get, I think we have too much to try to get through because there's a lot of stuff that I want to do. Yes. So I don't know for myself. There's no hadith and ayat about it. But in general, he can decide. He can say, no, I'll let her go. She wants to divorce. That's fine. She don't have to give me anything back. We know in the case of the woman that her mahar is due. Allah has commanded that we give her mahar. And Allah is the one who said that if she forgives any of it from you and she says she don't want any of it, hani and mari'a, you're able to take it and do with it as you please, enjoy it. Right? And so the husband, it's his right. He can forgo his right if he likes. Right? In general, in Islam, we understand that. So I know I gotta let you guys go, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Next week, inshallah, Dr. Marwa is going to be here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.